Yeah, with that card?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I'll share you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We're on?
Yes.
Okay. This is the Finance and Facilities Committee meeting of the Greenburgh Central District. It's April 20th, 2023. The time is now 6:35 p.m. And let's get started with introductions. First, we'll start with people in the room, then we'll go to people participating through Zoom. Dr. Iverson.
Good evening, Dr. Iverson, Superintendent of Schools.
Dr. Mack.
Christopher Macaluso, Curriculum and Instruction.
Chris Fallon, parent and board member.
David Warner, board member.
David Warner, parent.
Dennis Pugliese, Director of Facilities.
Lisa Raymond, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Victoria Bolte, Technology Department.
And back to the back table.
Amy Moore, district treasurer.
Elizabeth Donna, Essential Benefit.
Very good. And now for the people online, we'll start with, well, how it looks to me. Fred,
Fred Seba, BDS Architects and Engineers.
Sarah,
Hi, Sarah Lazari, parent of an ECP student and a second grader.
Katie,
Hi, Katie McGee, parent of an 8th grader.
Cal, Mr. Vidala,
Kalyan Vidala, RWE engineer and manager. How you doing, everybody? Good evening.
good evening. Walter,
Walter Simon, parent, grandparent, and a community interested party.
Gabriella,
Hi everyone, Gabriella Barahona, parent of 3 boys, one at Highview, one at LFJ, and a 3-year-old.
John,
Good evening, everybody. John Kane, RWE Clean Energy, formerly Con Edison Solutions.
very good. Anyone I missed? Okay, welcome everybody. So the next order of business is to adopt the minutes from the previous meeting. Could you bring up the minutes? Yes, from March 16th. Good. All right, so we're going to slowly scroll through these minutes. I'm going to try not to spend too long on them. See if you see anything really terrible that needs to be corrected. Okay. Phase 2 construction project, then all of that, reconfiguration. Okay, bond, then finance, American Rescue Plan, Bailey Auditorium renovations, draft budget for the 23-24 school year. There was a presentation, and then we did the line-by-line review. And there was a lot of helpful information if you want to ever go through another draft of the budget and know what the codes mean. And by the time we got through all of that, it was like 10 o'clock at night or close to it. Yep, adjourned at 9:55 p.m. So that's it. And I know some people have hard copies here. Did anybody see anything that needs to be corrected?
No, I move that we approve the minutes as submitted.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Good. All right, so the next order of business, well, we're going to go out of order now. Could you go back to the agenda? Okay, so some people need to leave earlier. So instead of starting on the facility side, the request is that we're going to start with the budget side. That is you want to start with the finance report and then go to the budget presentation. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay, so that's Go down to page 4 of the agenda. Scroll down to item 9, page 4 of the agenda. There you go. Okay, finance, Lisa Raymond. Okay,
Okay, so we, as you know, we have the $500,000 grant from former Assemblyman Tom Avenante for the RJ Bailey Auditorium. I've been working with DASNY, which is the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, to get that money. All the paperwork has been submitted, and I'm just waiting to hear back from our representative if there's anything additional that they need. I am also working with Mike Messina from BBS to get all the necessary paperwork that he needs so that they can submit the project to the State Education Department Facilities Planning. So we're in that process. That's where we are right now, towards the end. So we're very close. The RJ Bailey Auditorium, BBS has recommended that we expand the scope of the roof replacement, and that is part of, you'll see that in our budget presentation, that we would like to designate a portion of the $1.3 million capital interfund transfer towards the RJ Bailey Auditorium roof, so that can get done in conjunction with the renovation of the auditorium, so it's not damaged should we have a heavy rainstorm. Next is $500,000 that Senator Stuart Cousins gave us as a match to the Assemblyman's grant, and we are putting that towards the upgrade of the Woodlands Middle High School track. We are not as far along in the process with that, since that came much later. Excuse me, much later than the one from Senator Avenante. So I'm still working with our representative from the Dormitory Authority, and it's going the same process as the one from Assemblyman Avenante. Then Dr. Iverson has met with Assemblyman Shimsky. Who has requested for us to give her some recommendations for another grant should the assembly be awarded money that they can hand out to their districts. I'm sure that that will happen once the budget is approved and they find out exactly how much it is that they will be getting.
And it's still not there, right?
It's still not there yet. Okay, so that's where we are at with that. We keep going down, Victoria, please. Thank you. So the American Rescue Plan update. Since our last meeting, Mr. Seba from BBS and I have spoken quite a few times, and during one of the times that we were speaking, you know that we designated about $1.625 million of our American Rescue Plan money for ventilation work. Since our construction phase 1 project has been approved and through SED, if we were to use the American Rescue Plan money to do $1.625 million of the renovations in that project, then that would free up money in phase 1 that we could then have the board pass a resolution to move that to a phase 2. So that would be able to lower an amount of a bond if we would have to take that. So that was a very creative idea, and I credit Mr. Seba for talking or working through that with me. So we that is our proposal and our what we feel should be done. And the remaining money had to be $400,000 had to go to learning loss, and we have been using that this year for those purposes. That American Rescue Plan ends in 2024. So we felt it was best to use the money prior to that, even though we probably could have encumbered that money for ventilation, but instead of extending that out, which because the wait at SED is months and months, if we just used it to help with the capital phase 1 project, then that would free up the 1.6 million in the capital phase 1 we could put to capital phase 2. So that is what we are planning on doing.
Okay. Audit committee update. Do you want to do it, Chris?
The New York State Audit Controller's audit continues. Nothing's really changed since last time. We're finishing the internal audit, and we will be hopefully scheduling that meeting in May. More news.
Okay. Then we go to facilities fund update, and I believe there
Yes,
was a
and
new
there-
document put out by our.
There's a document to put up for it. Yeah. It looks like this one.
Is it the one that's sideways?
No,
that's an old
that's
medallion.
Colleen, right there.
There.
This last full row. Got it,
Good,
yes,
good.
yes, yes. So I know that everybody has been patiently waiting, and I thank you for waiting for us to show you where we are at with some of our projects and the funding. Now that the budget season is almost over and the board has adopted a budget to be presented to the taxpayers, Amy, Elizabeth, Sherry, and I worked on this spreadsheet. So if you remember, this is the same spreadsheet as previously. I just tried to condense the lines because I know the original spreadsheet confused some people. So if you see at the top, you'll see that there are 6 different columns of projects that are in projects with reserves or grants that we are currently working with.
Could you pick up the point size a little bit? Can you plus a couple of times or something? There's that back.
Okay, now
Yeah,
can I move it over to the side maybe so people can see it? This kind of looks to me like it's cut off. Yeah,
There we
okay,
go.
thank you. So you'll see that I indicate here capital fund phase 1, capital fund mansion roof, capital fund the 22-23 interfund transfer, which was from this year. What we have in our repair reserve, the American Rescue Plan, and our Smart Schools Investment Plan. So the beginning balances were really those from, I didn't want to indicate that these were the ones from June 30th, 2020, because again, like I said, I condensed some of the lines. So this really is like a balance forward from where we were the last time. We, as you know, we repurposed or reclassified money, and that equaled $5,759,337. So that gave us for capital project phase 1 a little more than $5.9 million. The bids came in at $4,535,900, and then I figured out 6% of the architect fees. To date, you can see that we have paid $987,835 towards work that has been done for phase 1. A big portion of that is the Highview Elementary School roof that was done in the fall. And once May 15th comes and we are able to turn the heat off by SED regulations, then a lot of the other work for phase 1 will begin. And then I subtract out architect fees that we've paid to date. So still to be paid from the bids that we received is a little more than $3.6 million. Now that does not include if there are any change orders. Okay, so that would be in a perfect world. Then the capital fund mansion roof, you remember 2020, 2021, we had the excess fund balance of $1,426,274. And in last year's budget, we asked the taxpayers to put that into the capital fund to do the mansion roof. Mansion roof came in at $1.245 million plus architect fees. That is in process. We have paid to date $556,018 plus architect fees. So there's still $716,342 left in that pot to finish paying the mansion roof. Capital fund interfund transfer from this year. You remember that we said we were going to do the Woodlands Middle High School gym, the RJ Bailey gym, and we were going to dedicate the rest of the money to the fire hydrant upgrades. The Woodlands Middle High School gym and the RJ Bailey gym are complete. The Woodlands Middle High School gym came in at more than what we thought, and that was because of asbestos abatement that we had to do was more extensive. And to date, we've spent $29,500 on the survey for the fire hydrant project. So that leaves $823,105 which is left for the fire hydrant upgrade, but I'm concerned that that is not enough money. From what I'm understanding, the project is going to be more than that. So that is a concern of where we're going to get the rest of the money from, unless we take it from, if we save money on the mansion roof or phase one that we could use to finish the fire hydrant work. But we won't know that, I believe, until the bids.
So the repair reserve may end up having
to help.
be partially
Right.
cashed out.
So the fourth column just shows you the repair reserve. We have we started with $1,254,327. And if you remember, we had transferred out of there a little more than $300,000 that went to phase one. We put in $3 million, if you remember, in the 2020-2021 school year. The board had passed a resolution and had asked the taxpayers that if there was excess fund balance left over, could we transfer up to $3 million into the repair reserve? So we did. So currently the repair reserve has $4.25 million in it. The American Rescue Plan for construction work is $1,625,321. And as I explained, we're going to use that to do some of the ventilation work in phase one, which will then free up that much money in phase one that can be used for something else and more specifically transferred to a phase two project, which we had proposed the roof replacement at the last meeting. Then we have our Smart Schools Investment Plan, which is our vestibule. We are awarded $451,876. The bids came in, the lowest bid came in at $328,000 plus architect's fees. We've paid out a little money there. So we still have $325,783. So you'll see at the bottom, I labeled this as an encumbrance balance because that is the green section is what we encumbered, because that's what the bids came in at. From that green bid amount, I subtract out what we've paid, and then that would be what's left on our purchase order or our encumbrance.
And then the last line is the
last line, I separated them because it's not an encumbrance.
Right. Okay.
Our reserve, that's what we have in our reserve. And I put the grant on the same line because that has not been encumbered. That's just going to be something that'll be moved from phase one to American Rescue Plan when the time comes.
I'm good, yeah.
And again, when the time comes, that due date for spending that 1.6 million is October, November.
October 2024, correct. But I would think
But it's already gone to NYSED.
it's already done. This has already gone to NYSED. That's why we're using it in capital phase one.
Sorry, did you write 2024 or 2023?
2024.
2024 is when you have to use it. 2023 was when you had to submit to NYSED. But we dodged that bullet by using a project we already submitted.
So we won't lose the money. Correct. So I'm sure that I talk too fast for the majority of everybody because I am a fast talker. I will put this up on our website under the finance. It's in our Google Drive, but I'll put it on our webpage also.
Okay, great. Are there questions on this topic? Okay. So what it means to me is I look down at that very bottom line on the right-hand side and say that we got a little over $5 million that are not yet encumbered. And that's part of what we're playing with for that roof bond. And the board was willing to go part way and some of the money comes out of there.
Correct.
Okay.
I would just be cautious of transferring the money like we wanted to the capital reserve just yet, until we see where some of these other numbers are headed, just in case.
Okay. All right, then. Next we come to, well, obviously the budget is approaching. So then we wanted to have you do a budget presentation.
Yes. That's what's very complicated. So at the April 18th Board of Education meeting, I did this budget presentation to the board and to the public on our YouTube channel. So this is our proposed 2023-2024 superintendent's budget. So I've asked Dr. Iverson and Dr. Macaluso to join us so that they can help explain and answer any questions that people may have. So Dr. Iverson, would you want to start?
Okay, yes, good evening, everyone. So as Ms. Raymond said, this is the 2023-2024 proposed budget that I recommended to the Board of Education at the last meeting on April 18th. So the budget, as you see, includes, and I'll just say start with number one, or letter A, program efficiencies. And what we mean by that is that we're looking at academic programs. And what we're looking to do is to consolidate our academic programs into one position so that we capitalize on efficiency and money, saving some money in the budget, but also looking at the descriptions in the various programs and collapsing them into one position for one person to be over that position, over those skills. And so that's what we mean there in Roman number one, where we're going to consolidate. We're looking at those programs now, and we're come up with a job description that will match and include all of the academic programs, where one person will be over them all, ensuring that they are done with fidelity. We are not eliminating any programs. No academic programs are being eliminated. They're just, as we looked at different job descriptions, what we began to notice is that they're obsolete first. They've been here for some time, and there's skills listed in many of them that aren't even relevant, not even connected to the position any longer. So as we began to eliminate, just blacking those skills out, we began to see how what was remaining could be consolidated and collapsed into one position. We knew doing that we would be more efficient in our programming, thereby, reducing and saving money in the budget and capitalizing on the skill set of one person to be able to go over and be and supervise the programs. Any questions? So letter B, I'll have Dr. Macaluso talk about.
Letter B, we are monitoring the placement of our students as a result of the annual review process. So we are anticipating that we would need approximately 2 to 3 additional special education teachers based on need. And so that number would be finalized once we complete the annual review process at the end of this year.
So let us see early childhood program teacher year. This does not impact students at all. The ECP program stays intact. The hours of the program stay intact. Children are staying where they are now, the main building and at Jackson. This is only impacting the teachers. What we're doing here is raising or getting the teachers of the ECP program on the same schedule as all other teachers in the district, in the Greenburgh Teacher Federation Union. As you know, our ECP teachers have a different time. They start school and end. And so we're trying to get them all on the same schedule. So we're bringing them up to that same calendar year. And that's what C is about. It does not impact the program. There's no change in transportation, no change in the students at all. It is just raising the level of time or increasing the number of days the teachers are working to be commensurate with all teachers in the district. This helps us as we plan professional development to be able to have a captive audience of all of our teachers at PD. And the way it is now with ECP having a different time, they start and end. We lose about 2 weeks a year where they are not available to be a part of PD that all other teachers are getting. So we're kind of leveling the playing field, making sure all teachers are on the same calendar year. So to do that, this is what's needed. We have to include funding because they're working more days now.
Okay, so then we made some modifications.
Just a quick clarification point. So Dr. Iverson, does that mean that parents who have children going into ECP next year, the calendar that the school year calendar we've just approved for next year, that's the one they'll be looking at for their school start day and their school year start, their school year end date?
Very good question. So the calendar that was approved, I think another 2 meetings ago, yes, that calendar year applies to all teachers. So they all start, I think, September 6th. and which is the day after the vacation of Labor Day. And we all end the same time. So ECP teachers will start that day, students will start, everyone is in the same calendar year.
Thank you.
We've also made some modifications to supply the materials. Dr. Iverson, Dr. Macaluso, and I sat down and analyzed 3 years worth of budgets, and we are confident that we would be able to trim some money in this area. Contractually, we had originally proposed a diversity, equity, and inclusion director, but we have chosen to go with a consultant first to see what the needs for our district would be and what would fit best for us. Gas and electric costs, as I explained last time when we went through the line-by-line budget, have increased significantly since the latter part of last year and this school year. And I have budgeted for those increase in costs for next year in anticipation that when our energy performance contract is done and complete, we will see those guaranteed savings and we will be able to save in these areas, but not in the 23-24 school year. I budgeted increases there. Judgments and claims and assessments. We have not used this money since I have been here, but it is needed in case something does arise. We did keep this here, but we just lowered it by about $100,000. And then Dr. Macaluso, you'll speak to restorative practices and social emotional learning.
So in this restorative practices, social emotional learning lane, we want to continue some of the work that we will be starting toward the end of May, whereby we will provide all of our teaching staff with restorative practices. So contingent upon this budget being approved, we would be able to do so with those.
Thank you. We are also proposing in this budget a college and career readiness teacher that will serve as an on-site teacher and assist with implementation of college and career readiness standards. This position will teach college readiness courses which will include SAT and ACT test prep, essay writing, and provide vertical alignment with the middle school. It will also identify students for IB courses, college level courses, and our WISE program, which stands for Woodlands Individualized Senior Experience.
Very good.
Thank you.
But
And then
before,
SE is the security coordinator stipend. Just a second, Mr. Simon, I'll call on you. The security coordinator stipend. We had proposed a stipend to have one of our staff members help with the coordination of professional development during the days that Dr. Iverson is designated next year, and for any conferences that we see that are worthwhile to send some of our people to, which we have done this year. It also would be somebody who would help us make sure that we have the proper staffing in all of our school buildings due to absences. We are always pulling from other buildings to provide coverage to say in an elementary school because of an absence, and that is very time consuming. And if we had somebody who knew where everybody was when everybody was here, we feel it would go much smoother. And then another large piece of this is also the overtime, games, extracurricular clubs, say graduation, those kind of things where we would need some security staff. This person would also be the one that would coordinate that and make sure that everything is done on a wheel and done fairly across the board for those who would like to do some overtime. So I saw that Mr. Simon and Ms. Hack had their hands up.
yes, I'd like to go back to the gas and electric cost increases. I know that the district decided to look into a battery storage facility. At the last meeting, I said the town had a whole folder of information because the town passed a battery storage law, and that it's just a matter of not reinventing the wheel. There might be information in there that you could use or maybe you can't use, but at least obtain the file. And my question is, was that file ever obtained?
Yes, it was obtained back when we were doing the when we had multiple candidates, when we had not yet chosen a candidate.
Okay, fine. That's fine. Good.
And the piece we picked out of it was the distance from the edge of the property that you had to be for a certain size facility, and we found that we exceeded the requirement in that. There were other things, but that was the biggest we got out of it. Okay.
Okay, good.
And I believe Ms. Hack, you had your hand up?
I didn't. If I did, it was accidental.
Oh, okay, very good. Okay, next slide. Okay, so as far as our expenditures are concerned, the school budget can be broken down into 6 functions. These are the main areas of any school budget. So the first is our general support. Second is instruction, which is the largest of all functions, which it should be because this is where all of the instruction and services for our students are contained all here. Then our pupil transportation, employee benefits, debt service, and the interfund transfer, which includes the $1.3 million for capital interfund transfer, $425,000 for the special aid fund, all comes here. So we are proposing a budget of $78,032,174, which is a 4.67% budget to budget increase. So as I said, the capital interfund transfer, how would we use that $1.3 million? So we are proposing that we designate the remaining funds that are needed for the R.J. Bailey Auditorium roof. And that is estimated at $780,850, which would replace the entire shingled roof area of that building.
Over the auditorium, right? Not the whole roof at Bailey.
Not the whole roof.
Just want to be clear.
Not just
Over the
that whole section.
Not the whole
Yes,
roof.
not the whole. No, the whole roof is over $2 million. And the high view 3rd grade window wall replacement, which we have been talking about for the last couple of years, that we feel could be a safety issue. And that has come in at approximately $450,139. So that is a total of $1,230,989, which leaves a little more than $69,000 that could be used for any other renovations, such as bathroom upgrades and improvements. So on the revenue side, to balance this all out, you see here that I have not changed the state aid number from what was originally reported, and that's because we still do not have a state budget, so nothing has been finalized yet. If we receive more money, that would be great. But at the time of adoption of this budget, which had to be done on April 18th, we still are being reported that we would receive $6.7 million. We're going to apply the $2 million of fund balance again, and our miscellaneous revenues, which largely comprise our sales tax revenue we collect from Westchester County, which is approximately 1.11%. Our interest earnings, which has grown significantly since the last school year, and our tuition and health and welfare billing, which has also increased. So to balance this all out, we're proposing a tax levy of $65,272,377, which is a 3% increase from this school year. So if you remember at the last meeting, I showed you, I believe, the impact to the taxpayer. This first chart shows that we are proposing an increase in the tax levy of 3%. The town aggregate assessment has increased by 6.7%. And if the average assessment of a home didn't increase, which is shown here in the first example, then this homeowner's taxes would decrease. After speaking with our town assessor and after the April 11th meeting, Trustee Warner asked if we could confirm with the town assessor what was going on and what was going to happen in the new school year. So this second chart shows you that again, the tax levy increase would be 3%. The aggregate assessment of our whole town is 6.7%. And a single family home has increased by 8.16%, which is in this example. Why do we use a different home in this example? Because when speaking with the town assessor, she said that the average home in the Greenburgh Central School District was in the $500,000 range. So I wanted to find a home that would be comparable to what she said that the average would be. So I'm using this as an example. What we have to remember is that the school district has no control over individual property taxes and no control over assessed values. This all comes from our town assessor, who does her own evaluation. From the Office of Real Property Services in Albany, they do their own evaluation. And then there is an independent contractor that is hired that studies the market value trends of the Greenburgh Central School District and the other the other nine school districts in the town of Greenburgh. They all get together once a year. They review all of their findings, come up with a consensus that they will recommend to Albany, Office of Real Property Services, and then Albany makes their final determination. So for this single family home in this school year, it was valued, it had a market value of $516,000. It is estimated on what these three entities got together that that house would be worth $558,100. So that's an 8.16% increase. So if you take the 8.16% increase in the home assessment and subtract out the average assessment of the whole town of 6.7, you get approximately a 1.4% increase. And then we're increasing the taxes by 3%. So this taxpayers' taxes should go up approximately 4.23%. If the average assessment is 6.7 and the tax levy is 3% for a difference of 3.7%, if the homeowner's assessment went up 3.7%, they would pay the same taxes as they did this year. But because the single family home assessment increased more than 3.7, that difference is what their taxes would increase. It isn't an easy thing to understand. Amy and I were on the phone with the assessor multiple times trying to understand this. But if anybody has any questions, obviously I'd be more than happy to try to answer them on any of our slides. And I believe that that's it. And we're at the point to ask questions if anybody has them.
Well, this is the quietest I've seen this group.
We turned off the hand raising. No.
All right, well, hearing none, thank you very much for your presentations.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so now we're going to shift back to the beginning of the agenda.
Finance.
And the next item is the energy performance contract update from Vidalia Kalyana, our RWE, formerly known as Con Ed Solutions. Kalyana, do you have anything that you need to bring up?
Thank you. Yes, I have emailed some slides in advance of this meeting. I also have them up on my screen. If you want me to share, I can gladly do so.
We're about to make you a co-host so you can share.
Okay. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, let's see, where's, yeah, can you share from this?
Can you share from your screen, Kalyana?
I mean, if you have the slides, I mean, the PDFs I sent to Lisa and Dennis and Slaughter, this afternoon, you could bring them up and I can
I never
go through
got
them
it.
and I could share my
Never came to
screen.
me.
I don't know which one would be, this is what I have.
I just printed a copy.
I just printed them out.
I just printed.
We
a
don't
copy.
have it, it sounds like.
Yeah,
We
we
don't
don't.
have it. At least, yeah, it's not on my Google Drive, because it never came to me.
We have a printed copy.
You know
We don't
what,
have
let-
it,
Okay, then I'll share my screen, make it easy. Okay.
Yeah, do that.
I could see if I could send it.
Can you see my screen, everybody?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Don't know how to get this out. Okay. So this energy performance contract, the last time I was there back in October, it was in very preliminary stages.
So we can't see this, it's telling us.
Say it again, can
Yeah,
you
we
see?
s-
Your screen.
Did you share your screen too?
We can't see your screen, Cal.
Does he need,
Hold on, we're gonna see if
does
we
he
can.
need permission? Maybe you need permission to share, Cal.
GT what?
GT.
You have permission to share your answer?
Let's see.
Okay,
Oh, here we go.
Oh, okay.
Here we
There you
go.
go.
got it.
Much better.
Okay, sorry about that. We use Teams, not Zoom much, so I'm learning it now. Okay, so
Yes, it's on.
Oh, he has to do that.
everybody can see the table?
Could
Yeah.
you make it?
You make it bigger?
Zoom a little bit.
Just zoom in.
Okay.
There you go.
There. Oh, yeah, that's it. That's better. You're gonna have to scroll a little bit.
There. Not-
Okay. Alright. Hi,
Yeah.
so thank you everybody for the opportunity. Last time I was there back in October, the project was just conceptualized. We mentioned that we had to do a lot of investigative testing, feasibility testing, do some geotechnical surveys, and we had to work with the utility, Con Edison natural gas and electric utility, to do some feasibility. So we have done all of that since then. In January, we got the water approval, so we knew that the project is going forward. So we went ahead, spend the money and worked with different engineers to get to this point. So at this point, most of our feasibility work, I would have to say like 95% of our feasibility work is complete. The project's looking pretty good. So I can go through the project, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to stop me. I can get into details on each and every project as you see fit. I won't go into details unless you have. I'll just try to explain generally what the scope is and move forward. If anybody has any specific questions on particular items, we can go through that, and then we will go into financials and all of that. So the first measure is we're going to change all the lighting, everything, about 4,600 fixtures put together, give or take. We're going to replace all of them. So by the end of this project, you won't have any legacy lighting in the district at all. You don't have any T8s or incandescents or any other lighting. Everything is going to be completely changed out to LED fixtures, and you're going to have occupancy sensors in all the classrooms and offices. So the lights automatically go off and people leave, bringing you electric savings and all of that. So with increased costs, it's getting more and more valuable. So that's pretty straightforward. The second thing is building management and control system. Currently, there is a 40-year-old Barber Coleman's pneumatic control system that is not functioning for decades. So as a result, the heating systems are very much like going, operating ineffectively, I have to say. So it's overheating, and they are not being controlled and throttled to how they need to be. So this project will bring all new digital controls, basically bringing your district to 21st century in terms of electronic controls to all the HVAC system, all the boilers, all the air handling systems that provide ventilation. And also we're going to be replacing all your fresh air intake dampers in the building. So you'll meet the fresh air ventilation standards, and that's going to be automatically controlled. And then and it will provide, this is for all the schools, right? The Woodland High School, Middle School, LFJ, RBJ, and Highview. And you will have a centralized server with data archive and all of that and trending, so you can make sure that things are off in school and in the evenings when the school is closed, and then it will know when to turn the boilers on in the morning so that schools are nice and warm when kids come in. So it's going to basically optimize and improve the effectiveness of the entire system. We have always proposed that going into the project, and we are going to execute that. The third item is natural gas lines. So currently the district uses fuel oil as your primary heating fuel. You do not have natural gas except Bailey. You have cooking gas in the kitchens for the elementary schools, but you do not have natural gas for boilers for heating purpose. So everybody knows oil prices is all-time high. Natural gas is also going up, but the spread between the oil and gas is large enough to pay for the project to converting these buildings into natural gas. So we filed all the applications with the utility Con Edison. Con Edison did the ruling on all the 3 buildings. We met with Con Edison engineers and project managers at site. We developed the scope of the project. Back in October, the scope wasn't clear how Con Edison's going to run the lines and all of that. But once we filed applications and worked with their engineers, when they did the ruling, it became, the clouds moved on, and it's very clear. So I can get into details if everyone has, but Dennis was there in all of those meetings with the utility. So the good news is you have natural gas at all these buildings. At LFJ, you have it. At Highview, you got the gas, and at Woodland High Schools, you have the natural gas. The only difference between the Highview when we proposed initially was we were going to bring it through the park, but that's not the case now. You have a high pressure natural gas line by Harvard Drive on the left side of the building. So we're going to be bringing the gas in from the left towards the boiler room, which is going to be much more effective. And the high school has natural gas on the Pinewood Drive side of the building, that residential side of the entrance. So we're going to have to tap into the gas there and bring it about 1,700 feet all the way to the boil. That's the challenge. Con Edison said that currently there is a moratorium in Westchester. So you cannot get firm natural gas. You can only get interruptible natural gas, meaning they will interrupt you during the cold winter days when they don't have enough gas. They'll call and you got to turn it off. That's the moratorium right now. And there are talks that that moratorium is going to be lifted. It's a state implemented moratorium, and the utilities are working with the state to lift that because there's a lot of demand for natural gas in Westchester. And so right now, if we stayed with interruptible, the cost of natural gas bringing the gas line in would be more for the high school. But if it went into firm natural gas through the lifting of the moratorium, the costs are going to be very, the cost that I have here, what we're showing is with the hope that the moratorium is going to be lifted up. So if it is lifted by the end of this year, this goes into construction next year, we do not have to incur that additional cost. But the Con Edison said they have to reinforce the line, about 1,100 linear foot of line into the Pinewood Drive to support our load. High school has big boilers with a lot of load. So to support that, they have to reinforce. They have a 4-inch line there now that's got to be upgraded to 12-inch line. So if the moratorium is not lifted, they are asking us to pick up that cost because basically they have to reinforce it only for us. But if the moratorium is lifted, then that gives them the opportunity to upgrade it at the utility cost, and that's spread over 30 years. So we would not have to pay that cost. Basically, they can spread the cost to the ratepayers. So
Kalyana, you have some questions.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question. If the gas-based furnaces, if the electricity happens to go down after a storm, do the furnaces continue to operate? That is, can you keep the buildings? I know we can't run classes, but can you keep the buildings warm with these furnaces, or are we lacking in the ability to activate them?
Is your question like, is there going to be a gas shut off during an emergency, during a storm? Is that the question?
What happens to us a lot is we have a lot of trees. It's Greenburgh, right? So there'll be a storm and the power will get knocked down, and we're responsible for our own power lines on the Warburg campus and all of that. And so sometimes we've had to do things to like bring in emergency generators really fast. My question is, if we're running on natural gas, assuming that they don't turn it off for some other reason, will the furnaces keep running if the power goes down?
Fred, you want to take that question?
So no, because the powers need electric in order to run, in order to ignite and then to run properly. There's there's blowers on the burners and things like that. So unfortunately, unless you have a generator that's providing power to the boiler room, the burners will go down and the boilers will go down in the event of a power outage.
Okay, so we're where we were. Okay.
Yeah, it's not gonna, however you opt, the situation would not change from the existing. Yes, sir.
Yes, no worries. All right, Chris, and then some.
And I could be misremembering, or maybe things have changed since we started talking about this a year ago, but I'm just noticing that we're talking about 3 buildings up there. And I thought the mansion was originally included for the natural gas service and the boilers. I think things have happened, may have replaced some of this, but can we just address what I believe we discussed a while ago and what's currently in the scope?
Yes, currently in the scope is high school, middle school, and all the 3 elementary schools. Yes, when we initially looked at it, the mansion was included, but we were told along the way that the mansion is not going to be up and running by 24-25 to be able to capture the savings. So what happens is we would be incurring the cost of extending the natural gas line. But if there is no load to provide savings, then that would burden the project. So we had to pull that out for payback reasons, just the mansion. Because what would happen is if you would bring the natural gas line, we would have to run extra, I think like 1,100, about 1,000 feet of line all the way up to the mansion. And all of that cost has to be justified from the savings coming purely from the mansion. If there's no usage at the mansion, then to a projected level, then you won't have the savings to pay for that additional investment.
Because I understand costs have gone up from our original proposal because costs have gone up, but it just seems like we're removing a big chunk of costs, but it doesn't seem to be.
Then he has to have a baseline to operate from. What's he going to use for his baseline?
I'm just saying the dollar amounts that were associated with that when the mansion was included were actually lower than this. And I understand costs have increased over the last year, but since we were moving a big chunk of work, I'm surprised.
I have another sheet that shows the difference in the cost to where we proposed and where we are now, and I can go over that in the next slide, and that can detail like what we are doing under each of these ECMs that has impacted the cost.
Mr. Simon? We can't hear you.
Okay, I'm on mute. When we bring in will the furnaces have the ability to use dual fuel, oil, or gas, so we could flip back and forth depending upon prices?
Yes, you will have the ability, and that is a requirement by the State Education Department that the schools should have dual fuel capability to fire both oil and natural gas. Just for the reason that in case of emergency, if gas shuts down, you need to be able to heat the buildings. So the boilers that we are proposing to replace are dual fuel capable boilers.
Thank you.
Maybe my general question is also, do we have just a summary of what's been removed since we last understood?
Yeah, once he's worked through his list, we'll ask him what has changed from the original scope.
Okay.
And we are also replacing so that's natural gas to the 3 buildings. And then we are replacing the boilers at Highview. They got 2 old, very, very old boilers that are ready to be replaced. So we're going to take out those boilers and install premium condensing boilers, Fulton boilers that are dual fuel capable and they're fully condensing. Originally, we were proposing HB Smith 28 E series boilers that are standard efficiency, but as of January 1st, that line went out of production. And the increase in oil costs as well as the electric and gas electric costs have helped me justify a higher investment into Fulton boilers. I was always wanting to recommend the Fulton boilers, but the cost of them were high that I could not justify. But the increase in the rates in the last 6 to 12 months has helped me justify the additional investment. So we are replacing them with a premium efficiency, fully condensing Fulton boilers at Highview, and at LFJ. I did not have a boiler initially in my scope at LFJ. We were just bringing the gas in, but now one of the boilers went out of operation. So LFJ is operating on only one boiler out of the two. So our scope now includes removing the non-functional boiler and installing one premium condensing boiler at LFJ. So that's that's addition to the scope. And in addition, we are installing new water heaters. Highview already has a gas water heater. So we are putting in new condensing water heaters. When I say condensing, it's premium efficiency. Water heaters at high school. We are sizing it to the DHW load. So high school and LFJ and Bailey. So though Bailey has gas, it has oil water heater. So we're installing a condensing water heater for Bailey. So that's the current scope for gas and water heater replacements. Building envelope and weatherization. We have our building envelope expert engineer. He went around. We got a full schedule of all the crack lengths and all of that. So basically, we'll be weather sealing all the buildings, adding insulation, attic insulations, and caulking the windows, and adding door strips and all of that throughout the building, throughout the district. Sorry.
Wait, we have a hand raised, Mr. Ashley Pineda.
Thank you. Quick question on the water heater for Bailey. Does that water heater, you said it's a new water heater, it's going to be gas-based. Will that water heater have an anti-scald valve attached to the top, and what will the temperature setting be on that water heater?
The temperature setting, we're going to leave it at like 140 with the mixing valves at the sink level being at 110 to 120.
Okay, so then that means that moving forward, once that's done, then Mr. Pugliese no longer needs to worry about the chlorination exercise he's doing now to make sure that there's no Legionella growing in the tank. Correct?
That is correct. That's what we did it, and Fred will help us with that, with the temperature set points on the water heaters, but we're going to be doing at 140. That's the intent.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, try it.
Okay.
Try to make it a little bit louder. Good. Okay. Go ahead.
So the programmable timers for classroom this is a pretty simple measure. We're going to be providing BERT controls. These are programmable plug load controls with programming features and overrides switch, obviously. So right now, when we walk in summer in a lot of classrooms, when nobody's there, the air conditioners are running even after school hours. So this will make sure that the air conditioners will turn off after preset time periods, or we can even make it, if needed, be occupancy based, but that didn't work out very well in the past for us, air conditioner going back and forth. So the optimal way would be just the timers and the air conditioner automatically turn off, so you can be sure that you're not cooling the buildings at night when nobody's there. So that's going to have straight electric savings. We're going to be refurbishing and rebuilding the air handler. So what scope we're doing?
I'm sorry, we got a question here.
Did we do item 4?
Say again.
The
Building and weather envelope and weatherization throughout the district. Did we bypass that?
No, we discussed that. We're going to be weatherizing the entire district. We got a full schedule and list of what areas need to be weatherized, how much insulation need to be added, what areas need to be called to basically want to keep the heat inside the building and prevent all the unnecessary heat leaks, designed heat leaks. So that would be the measure.
Go ahead.
So so it sounds like you're saying you said insulation and caulking. It's not like changing from single pane windows to double pane windows. It's nothing to do with envelope and waterproof. I mean, it's not the pointing So like the single pane windows we have all over the place, it's nothing to do with
It's
that.
not a window. It would be
Caulking and insulation.
very expensive.
I know, well, that's why I was surprised at how
Okay,
much it was listed there. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Programmable timers, we discussed that. The rebuild of the air handlers. We will be, the rebuild will be refurbishment of the air handlers will be completely, I sent the detailed schedule there. So let me pull that up. So. So we'll be doing new motors, shafts, new sheaves, bearings, and belts. So essentially that whole thing would get a full overhaul. We'll replace the outside air intake dampers and actuators. We'll be cleaning all the blower wheels and all the coils. It would pretty much balance, once all of this work is done, would be balancing everything and would be basically doing some housekeeping work on all the dampers and everything and reconnect all the wires. So that would be essentially the air handler would be brand new, except it's not, the metal is not new. And the blower is still old, but you get all the major energy consuming components of it getting completely replaced and refurbished. So you can extend the life of the air handler for another 20 plus years.
so just to confirm, when COVID came in, we said that in spite of the fact that we have old buildings, we don't want to grandfather use the old air handling standards anymore. We want to bring up everything to modern standards. And if you had to just open something all the way in order to achieve that, we did. We have had problems with things not closing up and components actually freezing in the middle of the winter. So I assume that's all going to go away, and we're still going to have good ventilation, good air quality, correct?
That is correct.
That's correct. And some of the work was in the bond referendum. That work has now been pulled out of the bond and put into the energy performance contract. If you remember, some of those fresh air intakes were chalked open because the controls were not working that Cal was talking about before. So those are all going to be replaced. The dampers are going to be replaced, all new damper actuators, all new DDC controls on all of those. So they will now be functioning, and we will not have to worry about coils freezing, pipes freezing, anything like that in the future.
Okay, so again, maybe I'm mishearing because I'm trying to read at the same time. I apologize. So you're saying replace, Mr. Siva, but then that says rebuild. So help me understand if they're new.
So the air handlers themselves are being rebuilt. The outdoor air intakes are being replaced as part of the scope. So
replace outside air intake dampers. So we'll be replacing the outside air intake dampers, and we'll be installing new controls, DDC controls. So there will be damper actuators that will be closing and opening the dampers on a programmed schedule and programming logic. Basically, like when based on student air requirements and stuff during school operational hours, we can program the dampers to open a certain percentage to bring enough ventilation air. When students leave and most of the people leave the building, they're close to the minimum position. So you're not bringing all the unnecessary outside air and unnecessarily heating up, cooling it at night.
And the reason that we're replacing the dampers is because the existing dampers were so rusted shut. When we had to try and pry them open for COVID, we realized that the dampers did not function properly. So that's why the dampers themselves are being replaced. The rest of the units are in fairly good shape, so they're just going to be rehabilitated, as Cal mentioned before, and continue to function the way they are. But the dampers were just not repairable, so that's why they're being replaced as part of this project.
Good. Continue.
Okay. Moving on, this project was always on the fence, replacing the rooftop units. There are 7 rooftop units. 2 of them are carrier new units at the front of the building. 5 of them are relatively old. This project is never an energy performance project. This was capital project provided if there was enough savings to justify it. But as we started seeing some of the cost increases on other items, I could not squeeze this one in. Right now I still am showing it here, but this will come off. That's why I'm showing 0 on that. Insulate all the piping and fittings throughout the district. it's pretty simple ECM. There is a lot of piping, exposed piping that is not properly insulated. It's basically a deferred maintenance. So as a part of this, we'll be just basically bringing all the insulation standards on piping to code. We have an engineer that go and developed a full schedule of all the areas and amount of insulation that's missing. So we're going to be basically anywhere that is open exposed hard pipe will be fully covered, and all the mechanical fittings and couplings and unions that will be they'll receive insulated jackets and stuff. So essentially you'll keep all the heat within the pipe than unnecessarily being radiated outward. So that's that. We're going to be replacing about 150 steam traps that are at Bailey, pretty much addressing and replacing most of the traps that are. There is a full schedule for that. If anyone is interested, I can share all the data and all the information behind these measures. So we'll be providing all of this to SCD anyway. I'm just letting know if anyone is interested in looking at the technicals behind this, we can share all of that. So we'll be replacing all these steam traps. That's part of the regular maintenance. We'll be addressing them in one shot so we can extend the life to 20 years going forward. And the last one, the ground canopy and solar BESS system, battery system. Yes, we are also doing a project with town of Greenburgh. So we are very familiar with their new guidelines and stuff. So we are also, as a matter of fact, putting batteries, working on a battery project for the town itself at a couple of locations. So we are familiar.
Question from Katie McGee. Katie?
Hi, sorry, it was about number 7. I understood you said those new RTUs were not an energy saving item, but could you just, because I don't remember, what's an RTU? What function?
Sorry about that. It's a rooftop unit. It's this unit that provides heating and cooling to a specific space like a gymnasium or an auditorium or teacher's lounge or music room or something, some set large spaces.
Like the auditorium. We really need that at some point, but I know that's later on in the meeting. Let's get back to how much was
another project to address it.
Right. I mean, it's still not, at this point, I'm not taking that into the financials because again, I was told there's a cap that has been approved. So I'm working to stay under that cap. But these rooftop units, the cost of rigging and installing and removing all of that is kind of adding it up, and they are not giving me savings to justify that additional investment under this particular project. So that's why I felt it's better to just take that out at this point. But we have done all the work in engineering and stuff, so we can share that information if in future, if you want to replace, we got submittals on that, but we're not able to fit it in at this time.
Also, if the committee remembers, we originally went in with 4% interest rate. We have now bumped that up to a 5% interest rate, which hurts the cash flow. And that's one of the reasons that that item had to drop out. And now we've talked about that a couple of times on the committee level, that might be the one item that might have to drop out if things had changed, prices went up or interest rates went up. So unfortunately, right now, that's the item that's been dropped out.
So just to clarify again, I'm looking at one of the proposals from way back when. So I understand the dollars are different. So for item 7, which is dropped out, when we say install DDC, the high school will not have, because this said when we replace those units, they would have DDC controls and high efficiency fans, blah, 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 blah. Estimated cost $202,000. And I understand the payback was a long time, so that's why it's probably coming out. If I'm understanding correctly, I'm a layman here, please forgive me. But since we're talking costs and how they've increased, I'm just curious going into item 8. You're talking about the bear pipe, wait, was it item 8 I want to look at? No, the steam trap. For example, you have there 108, let's round that to 109,000. But when I look at the original proposal, it says estimated cost 24,000. Now that's more than
originally we were estimating only 5% of the traps might need to be replaced. This is 100% of the trap being replaced.
Sorry?
Originally, we were estimating only 5% of the traps to be replaced. There are about 153 traps at Bailey.
Look, it says replace or retrofit all of the steam traps at Bailey. Scope includes replacement of 8 F&T traps and retrofit of 111, retrofit of 111 thermostatic steam traps.
So he was gonna fix a bunch of them
And now we're not fixing the 111. So I guess
And now we're
I guess it's
replacing- okay,
trying to
great.
get apples to apples, and it's
Yeah,
hard
go
for me to
ahead.
compare apples to apples if I don't understand all the details.
That must have been a mistake. $24,000 for 150 steam traps is, I mean, that must have been a type or a mistype from us. But the cost of replacement of steam traps, all the steam traps could not be $24,000. Because I know when we went in, we were estimating like about 5% of the traps typically that are bad when we do the testing to be replaced. But in here, almost like 70% of the traps need to be readdressed. So that's why we figured like let's just replace them, all of them. That's why the cost went up on the steam traps. But if there are any items here that you're not comfortable with, then we can peel those items right off of the list. But we just got to also keep in mind that they have, if they have savings that are provided, that are actually aiding the project, then we would, if we remove the particular line item, that would, along with the cost, the savings would also go away. So.
Okay. Item 10.
Item 10, the PV and the battery, the scope of the project. We did geotech investigation on the property, and we did GPR, which is called a ground penetration radar, to see what's subsurface conditions and any utility lines and running. So we got all of those investigations, and we have gotten prices from the racking suppliers and the module and the batteries and all of that. So and then we worked with Con Edison, the utility. We put the application in for interconnection because this system would be basically generating, and the solar would charge the battery, and then the battery would supply, and all of the energy generated would go to the utility grid. That's the intent. It won't feed the building. It has always been the intent that it would supply to the utility grid, and then that you would get compensated in dollars for we call them energy credits for the energies that you sell to the grid. So that's the project. So we have applied with Ciccone. They have done the interconnection study called the CSER study. The district has a copy of that. The cost came in much higher than we initially estimated. So now that we are in the cost, I can pull up the cost differences and what's the impact of that. Initially, the project was about $19 million of the total project, and in that we were expecting that the school district, in addition to this, the school district would borrow the interconnection cost as part of the finance cost, and then would pay out of the finance costs. So we had 19.9 and $153,000 of interconnection costs. That's why the contract sum is still, this is our old original numbers. So we have the 196, and there is $1 million of construction interest into the interest that you pay while the project is being constructed and built. So all of that bringing the total financed to about $21 million. But since then, we have gotten the actual interconnection study from the utility, and based on your location and the substation it is connected behind, they are saying that they needed more upgrades on the utility end. This is the money that goes to the utility directly. We just passing that through. So that the actual cost of the utility interconnection would be $239,000 rather than $153,000 that we estimated. And also when we did the natural gas study with the Con Edison gas team, like I mentioned before, there is we expect that you're going to see initially the gas, we anticipated that you would not have to pay anything because Con Ed would bring the gas to the property line at no cost, and then that you would have to bring the gas from the property line to the boiler room. But at high school, I expect that you need to pay about $213,000 to reinforce the gas line. Even if the moratorium is lifted, we anticipate that you might have to pay a little bit. But if, let's say, if you don't pay anything and Con Ed doesn't charge you, this money goes right back to you, basically. You don't borrow that, or if you borrowed that, you can give it right back to the bank. But this is just an allowance I have carried in here.
So is that related to the purchase of the company? Like it's no longer Con Ed, so that's not embedded in
No,
there.
you have to pay for the surface upgrades whenever you.
But was Con Ed including it before when they were going to do this project?
No, well, here's the man right in front of us, Mr. Vanilla. So has there been any change with your relationship with Con Ed? Were there privileges that you had or things that they would do for you for the lines that they won't do for you anymore now that you've been acquired?
You know, they've never done anything for us. We were always a separate, unregulated entity. So there was never any favoritism for Con Ed Solutions. So nothing has changed.
Okay.
Right.
So it wasn't not included last time, which I got confused. That seems like something that would have been embedded as part of, the Con Ed relationship, and we would have always had to connect to the gas line. So why was that zero before if there was no synergy between Con Ed Solutions and Con Ed? I'm just curious why it wasn't. Why it wasn't included before. Okay.
The gas connection cost, because the gas was already there at a high pressure, unless we apply for a ruling and they do an engineering study on the pipe to see if the pipe can support the pressure and capacity, we would not know what it would cost. They have a high pressure line there, and it was our understanding that at that time we did not know what line was in the ground at that time. They would have to provide you if you applied for the, did a ruling on that. So we did not know what we were told that there was enough gas there, but we did not know the line pressures or line capacity. So only because we applied for the cases and they did a ruling, now we know that the line is undersized for the high school and that they would have to reinforce that line. So that's why I did not carry any cost upfront. And again, all of this cost was going to be an allowance anyway. It's not like we collect the money. We don't pay it to us at all. You pay directly to the utility based from your borrowed funds. This is also an allowance at this time. You may not even see this. It could be zero. But knowing what we know now, based on all the feasibility and due diligence, we feel that you may have to be prepared to pick up some cost for reinforcing the gas line. That's what I'm saying. So that cost, the utility in electric interconnection cost went up. And again, there is no way of knowing what this number would be. There's an estimate we make based on prior projects, and based on that estimate, we connected Ardsley schools recently, so they paid somewhere close to this. So based on your system size, I adjusted, and that was the proxy number I could use. So I estimated that, but they were much closer to a substation than you are apparently, based on your feeder line on the street. So there needed to be more upgrades needed on the transformer side of the Con Ed. So that's why your cost is higher. But there is no way anybody would know even what this cost would be unless they do a CSER study. So that's what we did to get these costs. So that this cost came in higher. This is an allowance. And like I said before, initially we were going with HB Smith 2080 series boilers for gas at Highview, both boilers. And so right now, with the increased utility cost, that gave an opportunity to provide premium Fulton 2000 boilers that are dual fuel capable, and the savings on them are also higher. So that's why they cost about $150,000 a premium a piece. So I got hit with about $300,000 in in cost for the premium boilers. And previously, we did not have Leah Jackson in the scope, the boiler. So right now we have a boiler of the Fulton boiler at Leah Jackson.
Are there two different kind of boilers between Highview and Jackson? Like why are the each 150 each at Highview and 400 for one at Jackson?
150 is the differential cost between a standard boiler versus a premium.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So.
And the other one's all new, so.
Right.
The other one is completely new premium boiler. And also there are economies of scale in running the boiler installation. There is contractor labor cost differences. If you install 2 boilers versus 1 boiler, so if you install just 1 boiler, the total cost of install is higher than installing 2 boilers on an average per boiler basis. So LFJ is new addition. So I got about $1.1 million in additional costs across these items, of which about, we already had 150K earmarked for electric interconnection. So if you remove that, you are about $1 million differential between older contract sum and the updated contract sum. Again, we are picking up these costs now. We were told that we have to pay for this now, and it's a pass-through cost. Since it's not our construction, utility interconnection costs are straight pass-through to the utility. We just picking up the bill. We are just advancing the money, put it that way. Right now, we're waiting for your permission to let us advance the money, because once we pay the utility interconnection, we have to pay 25% of the 239. They'll, and then I have to provide that proof to NYSERDA to lock in the NYSERDA rebate. There is $979,000 in NYSERDA rebate money coming in. And right now I can't put the application because we did not make the 25% payment to the electric utility. The only way NYSERDA knows this PV project is going forward is if we make the 25%. That shows the commitment payment on the project, because they will be earmarking the money for us. So this money will be taken and put aside in a purchase order for us. So when we do the project, they'll do an inspection and then write us a check for this amount.
Is there a deadline for submitting that to NYSERDA?
There is no deadline per se, but the money comes off of a bucket that they have, and more applications, more money gets earmarked. There is less in the pot.
I mean, if you go to the New York State fiscal year, April 1 to March 31st.
No, there is no timeline for applications like that. It's a first come, first serve basis until the money runs out. And then at that point, there is, unless a new part of money is earmarked for the job, which they don't release that information, we go into like, I have to make this zero because we don't know how much money we're going to get in rebate. So right now,
their pot of money renewed every so often. So okay, I can hear you.
Okay, so right now the only way we can guarantee this rebate money, and the way I'll explain this, we have kind of accounted it as if you're writing this towards our last paycheck, put it that way. So we have discounted that off of the borrowed money, so you don't have to borrow that money, in other words, because this money comes in right at the end of the project, and our invoice usually falls after the completion of the project. So by the time you pay our last invoice, you already collected the money, the NYSERDA rebate. So you don't have to borrow this money, upfront and pay interest on this unnecessarily if you are going to already get this one. So you can use it towards our invoice. I mean, that's one way. We have done it for another school district. So we can do the same thing for us. For us, it makes no difference. So you just borrow lesser money, that's all. So I was told 21 million is the cap. We still got to work on this 40,000, but I think we can get there. So that's the difference in the money in the project, basically, between when I originally provided the contract a few months ago to today. The scope of work did not change because the scope of work was semi-crystallized back in January for me, because we knew what would happen, what project we're going to build. So that's the
Now, did we have, were we gonna do photovoltaics on the roof of Highview and then didn't?
The photovoltaics were originally planned, but once we got the roof drawings, the portion of the roof that you were doing was the back portion of the roof, which was heavily shaded. And the front portion of the roof is where we originally wanted to put the photovoltaics, which is not getting replaced. So it doesn't make sense to put PV on an older roof. So we had to pull it out. So when I provided this was the original contract numbers, that Highview roof was already pulled out. It was pulled out months ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I assume that if we go and replace all of our roofs in an upcoming project, then we can come back and you can bid on a project to put photovoltaics on any roof that is not too shady.
That is true, yes. But you also have to, yes, that's definitely a possibility. But please also note that this project, when it is all said and done, is estimated to offset your utility bill by like 70%. So you would have pretty much your bill currently, let's say, is about 1.6 to 1.8. It should drop down to like 400, between 400 and 500,000. So you have left, you don't have a whole lot left to gain from. So if you put a large PV across all the roofs, you will have excess credit because, like I said, this PV system here, it generates about, I have the numbers.
Right. So we're not gonna get much more efficient, but we'll generate a revenue stream by selling power back to the power company.
That is correct. You'll pretty much generate a credit, a revenue of $275,000 every year from this photovoltaic and battery system. Again, thanks to the higher electric rates and all of that is made it possible. But then if you generate electricity from all these excess roof systems, which will directly offset your energy consumption, then you will have to monetize the money that you are collecting as credits. Remember, they don't write you a check. They pass it to you as a bill credit. So you have to burn the to offset the money. Ardsley is getting it. We usually are very conservative in my estimates of savings. I expect the real money is more than what we anticipate. For example, Ardsley School District is collecting more than what I estimated when we build the job, put it that way. I think you should be able to collect around the same ratio. So
if we when we do that, then that's when we install our electric vehicle charging stations, and that's cool.
And then power our buses instead. Okay, fine.
Yes, if you add load through adding vehicle charging stations, and I think the state wants all the school district to convert all the fleet 20% to electric in the next few years and 100% in next so many years. So the load across all the school districts is anticipated to go up. So there is going to be more and more demand for PV and battery-based systems where the batteries are charged by the PV in the day and charges the buses at night. So you're not charging at expensive rate. So then yes, definitely all the rooftop.
That's like a 5+ year plan.
Got it.
5 to 20 year plan.
Yes. All right. Thank you. So now, how close are we to submitting to NYSCD, and what do you need to get there? What will change?
Fred, if you want, I can take that and you can.
Oh, we are still on the target of submitting this to SED by June 30th. We are in design now and are exchanging information back and forth with RWE Energy. They have a couple of last minute things that they're taking care of, and we're doing field work and we're in design now. So we're still on the original target that we set. I don't know, 3 months ago or whatever. And so we look good. We don't need anything from the district at this point. We have assumed a 5% interest rate, as I mentioned before. We're hoping that it's going to be less than that when we go do our borrowing. first quarter of 2024. And if there are, then if it is, then there'll be savings coming back to the school district. But right now, we're holding that to be a little bit more conservative on the safe side. So we're still on schedule. So June 30th is our anticipated SED submission date.
Very good. One other question. Is there any runoff issue with the photovoltaics? And since you're sitting on a bunch of ground out near the football field that it's not paved already, is that an issue at all? Like impermeable surface or anything?
Fred, that's a SWIP question. You want to answer that?
I don't know if I fully understand that question. What are you asking, Mr. Ward?
All right, so I have a big installation of lots and lots of solar panels, and they're tall enough up on stilts so you can drive a car under them if you want to park there, right?
Right.
And so I'm covering a permeable surface, which is dirt, basically, with an impermeable surface, which is the surface of the photovoltaic cells.
Right.
So is that an issue at all with runoff?
No, we've already looked at the drainage up there.
Space in between them.
Yeah, and because everything is permeable up there, what's going to happen is the water, the solar panels don't fit tight against each other. So some water will come in between the panels, and the remainder, because it's a pitch system, is going to come down off of those panels onto the permeable surface. So we're not adding any more rain or any more water to that area than what exists now. We're just putting it down in different it out. It's just coming down a little bit more concentrated along the edge of the panel. So we have looked at that. We looked at that as part of the secret process. We looked at that with the environmental firm, and everybody was comfortable that it was not an issue.
Good. All right. Those are my questions. Anybody else have any questions?
I want to mention one thing here before I end my speech. One of the numbers that you have to focus on is the interest that you are borrowing during construction. These are the payments that interest payments you'll be making to the bank while the project is built. We anticipate a 12-month construction time period. So when you borrow and before construction, you don't realize, you're going to get some savings from lighting. As the lighting is replaced, you're going to get some savings and stuff, but I'm assuming nothing now. So you're going to make some interest payments. So you can think some innovatively about, instead of borrowing the money at 5%, that's what's stressing. And I stress that at 4%, 3%, just for giggles. Every percentage point is $200,000 in additional interest payments. So basically, if you can borrow a bridge loan or even budget higher for the school year for that, for during the construction, you can raise this money in one way or another cheaper. That will directly impact the financials of the project. So I don't know, I'm not a financial but all I know is plug numbers in a spreadsheet and see how it turns out. And that's the conclusion I came to. 1 percentage point is $200,000. So we are near 21 million here. This 42 can be adjusted. What I'm saying is, if you can, instead of 5%, if you go 4% for the 12-month on $1 million loan, then you are talking $200,000 less right here on the bottom.
And I'm out of depth here, so I'm turning to my financial experts, and you got specialists back behind you, right?
Right, and I think we need to talk about that separately, and I've been talking with your staff on how to do that.
Okay. So like I said, once you make a decision, please, we need to make that 25% payment to the utility and get a canceled check and provide a copy of the canceled check as a proof of payment to NYSERDA to lock that money. Because if we don't get this money, or if I get less money, that's a much bigger number. So that's the urgency that I want to stress. And if
Kalyana, are you talking about the
Caesar, the interconnection Caesar study?
Is that the 231,000?
That's correct. The $239,000.
You need that first initial payment of 231, 225, what is, where is it?
25%, which is 58,000 something, yeah.
Right, so the total is 239,513. You need that 25% within 90 days, and then the rest in 120 days.
That is correct. That's their timeline. But that, yes, we have 90 days to make the payment to the utility to keep otherwise the application gets canceled and the utility has to redo that.
90 days from when? What's the
90
date?
from the date on the season. April 13th is when you got it, I think.
So April, May, June. So by July 13th, you need the 25%, if not sooner.
That is correct. The sooner, because the only reason I say sooner, and I already went upstairs and got approvals from our leadership to cut the check on that, because I need to secure the $979,000. To secure that money, I need to provide them the proof of 25%. So if I can make the payment next week, I get the confirmation a few days later from utility, and then I can apply for NYSERDA rebate the following week and lock this money, because this money is in jeopardy if I don't lock it, because there are a lot of projects in
First of
pipeline.
all, we don't have another board meeting till the first Tuesday of May. Is that it? The second Tuesday of May? It's May 2nd. Okay, our next board meeting isn't until May 2nd, where I could get this approved by resolution and the board president to sign it. But my concern is, I thought that when last time we spoke, if you paid it and not us, there was going to be a surcharge.
No, there is no surcharge on that because we're not doing the construction. So I went to our accounting and got that resolved. If we are doing construction, there is an ESCO fee, but this is the work, the $39,000 work. Utility is going to be doing the construction. That's their cost to bring the electric pole and transform everything to connect your system. We're not doing work, so it's basically a pass through. We're just advancing the money, and then we just pass it as a project cost if the project goes forward. So you don't have to. I mean, I was hoping you guys would pay, but you said you didn't budget for that, so we'll pay that.
I'm not saying that we can't do it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I can't do anything until May 2nd, after May 2nd, May 3rd. Because we don't have another board meeting. Our next board meeting is May 2nd. Can we wait till then?
Yeah, you can wait. It's up to you. You can wait for any amount. I'm just concerned that, I just wanted to lock it. I went to our legal counsel and I asked, like, what do we need to cut the check, the 25% check, like RWE to cut the check? I went to accounting, they said they can cut the check immediately. I went to leadership, they said I have their permission to cut the check. Then I went to legal counsel, I said, like, what do I need from Greenburgh School District? What do they need from Greenburgh for us to cut the check? And they sent me a letter, which I forwarded to you. Basically, it is just a coverage. When, let's say, if you guys decide not to do the project for whatever reason, or solar at least, right? And then, but we already front loaded $59,000 utility. So utility will start the engineering study after that. And then they won't spend all the money, but they'll spend some of it. I don't know how much. But
okay, but don't I still need board approval? I mean, we can't give him the permission to go ahead and do that without board approval.
So there has to be a resolution for that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but he's saying we could have them cut the check tomorrow, but we don't have board approval.
So now, is the resolution similar to the resolution that was on the 28th, on the agenda for the 28th?
This is the letter. That's the letter. No, this is that 2-page letter, 3-page letter. That's new. I didn't even bring this to you guys because you didn't sign the other thing.
Right.
Okay.
And well, the gap for us was that until the day of the meeting, we didn't have any scope of work that was anything like updated, right?
Right.
So then it's like, okay, we're signing on to this thing, but we don't have the piece of paper that tells us what we're getting.
Right.
So now I think we're in a little better shape. Would you agree?
Can I just start? I'm just going to go backwards for a minute. I know we were discussing scheduling a special meeting for another purpose. Has that actually been scheduled?
Nope. Everyone hasn't.
Okay.
You're
So
talking
there's
about
a
the
tiny,
27th?
tiny chance there's a meeting before the second, but the second is the date we know of.
Have everyone available.
Okay. So we're still looking at the second. As far as the resolution the other day, correct, David Warner is correct. We were asked to approve a contract that had no details in it as far as the scope. And I think there was differing amounts on the dollar amount, and I think there was another issue or two in there, and we weren't going to approve a contract that was
Right, there was no
blank.
contract, you have money, but no services, right,
Exactly.
okay.
So I don't know, Ms. Raymond, if this letter is what, because this seems to be referencing the dollar amount that's being discussed here. And again, I just got this, I haven't read this, I got this in here. I
So
don't know.
that's the contract that we wanted.
Well, this is not what was attached the other day. This is
And
different.
I'm talking this one. This is the 3-page document where they want the $239,000 now.
Okay.
Okay.
That was in the packet that you guys did.
Right,
That they just handed out.
right. So,
It's 3 pages.
so I guess we're still looking at May 2nd.
I mean,
It looks
yeah,
different, David, than the resolution we were shown the other day. This doesn't seem like the full blown approving. I don't know.
that you have to
It
talk
goes down
to,
what do
that
we
you have to
need from-
talk to Fred, Kalyana and John about, because that all came from them. So if you have questions about what the contract is, they're here right now. I guess we should have
I guess
them.
we need to discuss with legal is this thing to approve payment for an interconnection study different and separate from the overall EPC contract that includes the scope, the dollar and all of that. So
That wasn't going to be
given
signed.
today.
I know.
Right,
Yeah,
we're
so-
still in my SED.
So I guess
Right.
that's a question. I don't know who's going to answer that, but that's what I see.
Yeah, there's two separate.
Now, the one that was on our board meeting that we pulled, Carol had already seen and approved. She approved that, but
There's two
the reason it was pulled was because that was the $19.9 million. And this is now over $21 million.
Right. I know scope was a chat. There were a couple items that were blank. So one no vote on a blank contract, so. David, Ms. Hack, Megan Hack has her hand up. I don't know.
Megan, go ahead.
I'm sorry if it was discussed already. I haven't been able to listen to every moment of this meeting, but I'm a little confused with the EPC because I thought the strongest benefit to this was that there was no out-of-pocket cost to the district until we started to receive the benefits from the energy rebates. So this upfront payment is confusing to me, and I'm not remembering in all of our discussions that we had a payment that we were supposed to make upfront for the contract.
So at this point, there is no upfront payment if you're talking about the Caesar study. Originally, what we had discussed with RWE was the district paying that separately, but then and the concern was that if it went through RWE, there would be a markup on top of it. I believe Lisa Raymond had mentioned that before. But then RWE went and talked to management and came back and said, no, we will put it through RWE and there will be no markup. So right now, there is no upfront. The district does not have to pay that money. RWE is going to pay that money and they get reimbursed out of the borrowing later on, which all gets paid for out of the energy savings from the energy performance contract.
So I think one trustee, oh, sorry, Ms. Hack.
No, okay, that was it. I think that clarifies it. So then but aren't we having a discussion right now about putting it
He's
into?
trying to get his NYSERDA rebate, right?
Right, so I think your question, Megan, is this, or the answer. They're guaranteeing us that we're gonna see the savings over, and correct me if I'm wrong, 18 years, right? The life of what this project will be. But people aren't gonna wait 18 years to collect what they've done. So we are gonna have to bond or take a loan out for this money, but what we make in payments annually should be offset by our savings to come to zero.
Yes, and that was my understanding of it. But Isn't the discussion you're having right now about giving an upfront payment?
Well, yes, because, right, and that's what Mr. Seba was just talking about, but RWE is willing to make that payment and we will pay them later, reimburse them for what that they upfront us, or front us.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, it becomes a normal project cost, basically. If we pay it, like a lot of ESCOs do that, they pay it upfront. I mean, for Ardsley and other projects that I have done, the district picked up, they paid it upfront only for the reason that in the risk factor, the risk considerations are different when we changed our name. So I guess that's why they're doing it. But when we were Conrad Solutions, they were not footing the bill upfront, because in case if the project doesn't go forward, if the district cancels the project, we are out the money. How are we going to collect it? That was the consideration when we were Conrad Solutions. But the new RWE, I think that the risk factors changed, so they're allowing to do what's done in the business, which is us paying that money upfront. And like I said, when the project goes forward as normal, then it becomes a normal project cost, basically. The concern for the legal counsel basically is that if the project doesn't go forward, and we already paid $59,000, what happens? 90% of the time, if the utility hasn't done any work, it's a PSC regulation, they have to refund the money. The application, we will withdraw the application, the interconnection application from Con Edison, the utility, and then unspent monies will be reimbursed back to us. So out of the, let's say, as an example, $59,000, they spend, say, $20,000 worth of engineering, and $39,000 is unspent. They'll refund $39,000, but they will not refund the $20,000 because they spent time and effort in engineering. So the letter, the 3-page letter that Lisa is showing is, it says, because we are advancing the money on behalf of the district like now, and the difference in our refund money, let's say in this case, the $20,000, we will invoice the district for the $20,000 that we lost because the district did not move forward with an EPC. That's all we are saying in that letter.
Mr. Pineda?
Thank you. I have two questions. The first one, what is the impact of waiting a week? Because our next meeting is on the 2nd, if memory serves me, and we're already at Thursday, the 20th today. So is there a huge impact by waiting a week?
I don't think so. I mean, again, I don't think 1 week is going to make that kind of a difference. I think 90 days is going to make a lot of difference, because the utilities rebate is first come, first serve, and we're talking close to $1 billion. But 1 week, I don't think would make that much of an impact.
Okay, so then can we just plan on putting this on our agenda for the Tuesday, May 2nd work session meeting and approving that letter, I guess, is what we would be planning?
Right.
Is anybody opposed to that?
As long as we're clear.
Go ahead.
As long as we're clear what we're putting on there, because again, this looks very different from what we saw. And I don't know if they're two separate items or if one is embedded within the other. So I don't know who needs to clarify what needs to be on the agenda to be able to get this check cut so that.
So what will the resolution of what will the language of the resolution look like?
I thought it was going to be to approve that letter.
Liana, what's the difference between what I had on the agenda for the 19.9 and what this document is? Can you tell us that?
Yes, that's what I was showing the difference here. The 19.9, this is what you're asking. This was the original contract you're referring to. And then the difference right now, it's 20.96. The difference is $1.5 million. It's just numbers, rounded up. So that's what you're asking, right? Is that the question?
Yes and no. So I'm just wondering, so that's the overall contract, I guess, with the EPC, right?
So, yeah,
And then-
this is the old resolution. Take a look.
Right, but this letter that just wants us to commit to funding the interconnection study, I'm just wondering.
That's not the same as approving the entire contract, right?
Correct. So I'm wondering, do we need to do both? Do we need to do one and then later on do the other when we have a more firm scope? And if we're gonna do the other, then all those missing details need to be filled in. That's where I'm going.
Okay,
Is this obviously would be included in the overall contract, but can we do just the piecemeal part to fund the interconnection study if we don't yet have the full scope and the other missing details? And to make it under 21 million or whatever the dollar amount was to approve the whole contract. I don't know these answers. I'm just asking the questions. I don't know what's been done when you worked with Ardsley before.
Yeah, you don't have to do both at the same time. All you need to do, if you are comfortable with the interconnection, that's all I need to move forward to make the payment to lock in the rebate money. You don't have to approve the contract at the same time you are approving the interconnection letter.
So I don't know if that makes it easier to break it out or if that just complicates it further. I have no opinion. I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable, but
right, so
just
we
wanted
take it to
to-
legal, we have an intention,
Okay,
and you make no commitment now.
but you understand.
Unless legal says yes, alright, so legal blesses it, then we're okay.
Okay.
But Cal, you know, we don't have an issue cutting the check. You got approval for the interconnection study once the project is approved. I mean, weren't you looking, this project, the increase is what you're showing. That's what you were looking for final approval for, right? And then at
That's the
that
final
point,
approval.
then at that point, we could submit for the interconnection and we're covering that first payment.
No, let me clarify. Let me take one step back and clarify. The
I can't hear.
interconnection payment of 239, like 25% of that, meaning $59,000. Right now, that is the amount we have to pay to Con Edison and then get a copy of the canceled check to provide to NYSERDA so I can finish the NYSERDA application to lock in the money. If the whole project falls and you don't go forward, then we get the refund back from Con Ed, we pull the application back from NYSERDA, we pull the application back from Con, nothing happens. So they are different. But if the project moves forward as everybody wants, then that money, then we will continue the study on the interconnection, we'll go forward and then that money that we paid now becomes a normal project cost, which is part of the 2996 now. So the difference I'm showing here is all these additional line items that brought the 99 to 29. The $1 million of difference is a combination of A, B, C, and D that I'm showing here. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it is clear this way, or I can provide any.
So
Yeah, but right, so this is the project though, nothing at this point, these are the
At
final
this point,
numbers.
this is the project. Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct. This is the project because you are at a cap of 21 million. Let's
Yeah.
call it 21 million. 21 million. So the project cannot grow bigger than this. This is it. And the reason, even if your contract is 20.9 and you're still borrowing 20, the reason that you're still 21 million is because in the newer contract, I have discounted the money. In other words, when you get the rebate money, you remove that from the financing money. So that's why you are not borrowing $1 million more. In other words, you're offsetting that with the rebate money. So that's why to keep, the only reason I'm doing that is because to keep that at 21 million or lower.
All right, somebody has a question.
So Ms. Raymond, I know one of the other issues, as you stated earlier, with that resolution was because the dollar amount was higher than what we.
Right, it said not to exceed 21 million.
So on this document, are we looking at the 20.996? Or are we looking at the 21.042?
No, they're saying it would be 21.42.
So
we're technically
the thing
over
we
by
need to
42,000,
do needs to be no more than 21.
but he's gonna
So-
scrape the barrel somehow and get that down by the
So
time
if he
we
gets, so
sign.
Or we have to budget for that excess.
okay. So first of all, if we don't already have this backing document, I'd like that emailed to us and included in our packet. If not,
I don't have this.
okay, so
Yeah, this I developed it this morning. I went back and looked at the difference. I knew the difference, what caused the difference all along. but I had to create this document so you can see in, left and right what caused the difference. So I will email this to.
You sent it to us, Kalina?
I will send it right after this meeting. I didn't send it because you were
All right.
presenting something and I was making it, so I didn't want to flood your inbox.
All right, and then I'll put it in their board update tomorrow. If
And
you
now
can
it's
send
Okay,
it.
yeah, I'll send it right after this meeting.
We do have to approve the project as per the original resolution. And if that's true, then we need the whole scope listed as per, appendix B or whatever it was. We need it actually. I would like it.
They have to.
I would like the full
I have
contract.
my hand up for the last 5 or so minutes.
As we would say.
Mr. Simon, go ahead.
I'm still trying to understand. If there was no increase in the scope of the project, it was the 20 around the, it was the 20 million. Would the board still have to approve some upfront money?
Yes.
Okay. If it was 20 million, they would still have to go through the same process.
Yes, and they have to approve the contract with RWE.
Okay, so the fact that this extra, it's an extra the process hasn't changed. It's just that this number is a larger number. Is that correct? Okay, fine. Okay, thank you.
Al, what would the contract amount be? Would it be the 2996 or would it be the 21042?
When you mean it, okay, a contract has two numbers. The contract amount, this is the amount that paid to us, where your fee would come off of, everything would come. So this is the money that our contract will have, and this is the money that they borrow to pay us this much. Basically, put it that way. They have to borrow 21 million to pay 20.996, because numbers are all here. In the prior scenario, they have to borrow 21.14 to pay 99 because of the $1 million of interest in here. So the only way we tackle that is through the NYSERDA rebate. So our contract value would be 20.996471.
So he's under the ceiling based on that. Okay, Megan.
So if we get the 4% instead of the 5% interest rate, the net finance amount will be under the 21 million anyway.
Yes.
That is correct. 200,000 less, like I said, every percentage point is coming to be, it's a simple math. $200,000.
And at this point, we're guessing 5% is the top and hoping it's lower than that realistically for January, right?
Right now, it's a little bit under 4% currently.
Okay.
So we're hoping 5% is a conservative number.
Okay.
So, but also in reality, the reason this is going over is because you added things to it that you didn't have in the first estimate.
That is
The
correct. We have
Jackson,
added.
Boilers at Highview, they weren't in the original scope.
The boilers, the reason that I have to add them was I came up with this option of not borrowing the 979,000 that gave me some room to add these things. Plus the increased fuel oil rates made room to add these additional things. Yes, combination of multiple.
You're moving it, aren't you?
Originally, the boilers high, premium boilers.
Can we get the new contract by next Friday so we have time to review it before?
I'd like the new contract tomorrow so I can get it to Carol. Can I get the new contract tomorrow with all the detail?
When you mean the detail, I provided you new contract after our call. The only thing that get added to the contract is the completed CEA. So
Yeah.
I don't have a completed the CEA would become a part of the contract, but I can provide the scope of work that I emailed today as part of the contract if that works. If you want the
attachment, correct?
Contract
That's an
specifically
attachment, yes.
discussed with an addendum, so yes,
Right.
I would think that we need all of that listed. I'm also gonna say it talks about what, the performance term, and I think it said 1 year. So, there are a couple of questions that I had about the contract as given. So the sooner we get that and our legal reviews it, then
It has to be in a form that's legally binding. You can't have it like floating out here unless the contract specifically refers to that document, and that's the real actual document, or, yeah. Right, so if it takes a little longer to make the contract, it's just some more paperwork you have to do.
Yeah, the contract legal language is all frozen. Then I'm not changing any legal language. All I'm doing is finishing my technical piece, which is the audit report, and that will get attached to that.
I thought you wanted these two documents to go to legal together.
You want one unit to go to the legal, however many pieces it has, so that they can look at it and say, yes, this makes sense.
I don't know if we need one resolution or two. I don't know.
Because we're not
So,
lawyers. Because we're not lawyers. All right, so we've gone as far as we can go. So, you have to put the document together in such a fashion that it's ready for legal review.
Carol already has.
So the way I am understanding this is you need a completed CEA report. And not the, a completed CEA report with these dollar figures in there along with the contract. So there is reference sections. I get that. We are planning to get this to SCD by 6:30. So when is the board meeting before 6:30 to sign that contract?
There's 2 board meetings in May and 2 in June. We have 2 a month.
Okay. So technically we can get
time for legal to review it. So I would aim, if for the latest, I would aim the 2nd meeting in May. If you can't get it to us sooner than that.
Okay. Let me go back and look at it.
Budget code, right?
May 23rd is the second meeting, May 23rd.
May 23rd.
Cal, the only thing that was missing out of the contract was the audit report.
Yeah, the CEA
That's
report.
it. Okay, because I know, Lisa, that your legal reviewed it, and that was the only piece missing. So we need to get that piece.
The scope was missing as well, both Schedule A and Schedule B.
Oh,
Yeah,
A and B.
Those are all part of the CEA report. Technically, everything that's missing is part of my CEA report, which I'm in the process of writing right now. I think I'll have the CEA report ready for your June meeting, because we also need to get internal approvals on the on overall report. You have to go to QA, QC and stuff. So I could send a draft report if you want, and then in the final cleaned up version, it takes time. So if that's acceptable, we can do something like that.
You could send it, but they're not going to approve a draft.
When's your June?
It's a work session on June 6th.
When's your June Finance and Facilities Committee?
June 15th.
But that's
June 15th.
June 15th is the finance.
That's cutting it close.
We're not the board. We can't approve.
Know that. He's going to get the draft ready by when?
When can you get us the draft?
I have to get back to you on that, because I also have to talk to a couple of guys that are working on this. So I'm preparing this. My full CA report will have all this SCD required documentation. That's what takes some time to pull it all together. I'll get back to you with the schedule for that. How about
Okay, so Finance and Facilities Committee meeting, if you want the Finance and Facilities Committee to bless something before it goes to the board, would be the 15th of June, and the Board of Education meeting following that would be the 20th of June.
If we've already, FinTech has already recommended.
Yeah, but legal has to look at it first before we can say anything.
So another thing.
So John Kane, what do we do with the Caesar money that we want to pay sooner rather than later in order to lock in our NYSERDA rebates if they can't approve the contract until June 20th, because the CEA is not going to be done until.
Right.
The
Well-
again, I don't know if I said it clearly, the contract has nothing to do with the season money approval. The season money approval letter says that basically if we will try to collect all the refund if the project doesn't go forward with Con Ed, and whatever shortfall of the refund collections from Con Ed, the district has to compensate us for the difference of whatever we don't collect. So that's independent of the CEA. If the CEA goes forward, then there is no refund to be collected. It's the project goes forward.
But there is no legal document that commits the school district to do that.
So are we back to the 2 resolution solution? Are we back to having a lesser resolution for May 2nd so that he can go get his check, and then the greater resolution for June?
I think so, because you don't want to wait until mid-June to submit that. See,
Right.
You know,
Okay,
yep, I would say yes. Do you concur, Cal?
Yeah, that's what I request, yeah.
okay.
All right.
Lesser, May 2nd. And greater whole contract
So that's,
in June.
that's.
Right, but yeah,
After
we'd
legal-
want to have the whole thing to you by June 1st so your legal can review, correct? Or right around.
All right,
Yes, yes.
we're saying the date of June.
And that the lesser copy one is already with legal. I'll contact Carol.
Right, yes, right.
Okay, so let me ask, so June 15th and June 20, okay, FinFac and the board meeting. So when is the next FinFac meeting?
June 15th.
May.
No, May. When is
May.
it May?
No. After June 20, when is the next FinFac meeting?
Oh, September.
Right.
Yeah, we're
We don't do
still-
anything in the summer.
We go away for December unless we have some kind of special meeting just for you.
So
And we don't want to.
let's say if I miss the June, I'm just thinking a hypothetical situation. Let's say if we could not get you a signature approval by 6/20, the next approval is September?
No.
No,
We'd have to have a meeting over the summer.
there's a board reorganization meeting in the
Oh,
beginning of
in the
July.
beginning of July.
We reelected president, all that. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think we want to push it past June 20th, Cal.
Yeah, I agree.
No, neither
But-
do I want, I know, so I'm just asking what.
All right.
Is okay.
As soon as you guys can have it to us, the better.
Right.
That's all.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. All right, so the time is now 8:42. My God, okay, but thank you very much. We wanted a thorough review, we got a thorough review.
They don't have to stay any longer. Trustee, Warren?
I do want to hear what's going on with the fire hydrants. I don't know if you could answer that.
No, I mean Kaliana and Mr. Kane.
All right, so yes, we can let you guys go. And we're just gonna blaze through and I'm just gonna page through and we're gonna see if anybody has any questions. And that's pretty much it. So, all right, so now we've gone over the energy performance contract, the phase 2 construction project. That's item 4. If you go to the end of that, the last bullet is we're requesting, well, we got the updated roof project cost. It's down to $11,950,000. It's a little
Okay,
smaller.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Fees got pulled out. Then we were looking for secret documentation. Any update on that?
Secret, we got it.
We got it.
Yes, we do. We did.
Done.
Yes.
Okay. 5-year facilities plan.
Sorry. Have we started secret on the rest of the roofs?
We got it.
I have
Didn't we?
for
No, we got the secret.
secret for the.
We got
Right,
secret.
we got it.
Okay, so we got secret for RJ. They include
We got secret for all the roofs.
Okay, that I did not see, so maybe that could be in the packet.
No.
Friday package.
Sure.
Good.
Secret, oh, you got it.
Okay. Then, next item, 5-year facilities plan. We're waiting for the strategic plan to be adopted. We were wondering if there was gonna be anything in the budget that would change what's in there. Are we good?
We're good with the consultant that we have here
Yeah.
is in the budget, so.
So we're good. So we can adopt it at our next meeting if we want.
Our trustee mayor says in May.
Good, okay. Then, facilities projects, we have a list here and, BBS has a report. BBS. Did they leave?
Yes, do you want to screen share it?
Fred,
Fred,
do you have the,
I think you have it too, don't you, Victoria?
project report?
No, go back to that, right there. That-
Can you,
this one?
yeah, there you go.
That's-
I want you to run through that and make it a little bigger.
This is number 10.
The, Finance and Facilities Committee, going to make the Finance and Facilities report from BBS. They're going project by project.
Okay, the first project is the security vestibule addition at the middle school, high school. We ran into an issue there with the contractor. And I believe your legal team is concerned with moving ahead with that contractor. I think it has something to do with the Department of Labor violation by that particular contractor. So there are discussions.
We need to go into closed session for this?
Stop talking.
Okay.
Okay, so I move we go into closed
Or
session.
we do that at the very end.
Or at
then
the
you look
end.
The rest of the stuff.
All right, fine, fine.
David, what would you?
Do with the Department of Labor violation. So then there.
Are we safe?
All right. Let's look at that because then it's gonna get fluky otherwise. I move to go into this.